Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Jack Tips. I am thrilled to be giving you this invitation to become an account of Systemic Formulas International, an herbal nutritional company out of Ogden, Utah. As an account, you can be looking forward to receiving herbal nutritional formulas that actually work in your clinical practice, as well as cutting-edge information and cutting-edge training. You're going to be connected with insights from top clinicians around the United States about how they're applying these formulas for the health and healing of their patients. You're also going to find, when you work with Systemic Formulas, some really terrific customer service, and it's my pleasure to offer a second opinion program because I absolutely love sharing the information and the protocols that have worked for me over more than 25 years of clinical practice with people that are getting engaged with the Systemic Formulas. And finally, I'll say we also offer a monthly newsletter bringing sort of the latest information, the latest research that breaks out of the scientific community that applies to what we know to innately be true, that herbs and nutrition are the answer. They are the wonderful medicines for the body, and that if we can nourish our bodies properly, our bodies in their own innate intelligence are able to heal themselves. Now, you know, there's a lot of good products on the market. My clinic shelves are certainly filled with many good products that I have to rely on as a clinician to get the job done. But let me share with you just a minute here what is important and unique about Systemic Formulas. This is what I really appreciate about working with Systemic. Number one, quality control. I'm aware that there's literally hundreds of herbal companies that simply put onto the marketplace what I call weeds in a capsule. You know, they read a recipe book, they gather up some raw materials, throw it in a capsule, and out it goes. And of course, that's touted as the latest, greatest formula in the whole world. What I really have enjoyed as a consultant to Systemic Formulas is when I've seen raw materials arrive on their shipping dock and they immediately go into assay. Systemic has a laboratory on facility. They have a spectrometer, and this spectrometer is going to literally run an assay of the herbs. And when they look at the herbs, they, number one, is it the right herb? You might be familiar that there's different varieties of, let's say, cat's claw, the Uña de Gato, and a couple of the varieties do absolutely nothing as far as helping the body with health, but the right one does a marvelous job. And so in the picking and growing of these, people can pick different vines and they all have thorns on them and they all look like Uña de Gato. But Systemic is going to know right there in the laboratory if they have the right herbs. That's so important. Secondly, we may have heard history how herbs can be contaminated with heavy metals, particularly those coming out of the Far East. And so Systemic is assaying these herbs, looking for mercury and lead and cadmium and toxic waste. And of course, all of those types of things are totally unacceptable. And finally, the herbs are cultured in the laboratory and seeing if they're having things like E. coli and bacteria. So I know that when an herb actually gets into the Systemic Formulas warehouse, that it's pure, it's accurate, it's bioavailable, it's functional, and it's ready to do what we need as clinicians, and that is impact our patients, literally their genome, through the epigenetic mechanism to elicit health the way that herb has shown that it can perform over the last thousands of years. It gives me great peace of mind to know that quality in nutrition is everything, and quality is job one there at Systemic Formulas. Now, a second thing that's really precious about Systemic Formulas is the history, the lore, the legend, the formulas from their founding formulator, Alexander Stewart, Doc Wheelwright. He was a 20th century eclectic healer, and he passed on in 1990. But Doc was one of the pioneers of bringing out bioenergy and herbal combinetics. He studied these things to the point where he was able to establish new laws for herbology. For those who are deeply entrenched in herbology, we look at herbology before Doc Wheelwright and after Doc Wheelwright. Doc Wheelwright was a milestone turning point event as he was able to match the bioenergies of the body tissues with specific frequencies within the herbs, and then combine the herbs so that the laws of synergism were applied. What I'm saying is, more than weeds in a capsule, systemic formulas have a plan. They have a guiding intelligence. They have knowledge of whether an herb is catabolic or anabolic in its activity in the body. And all of this knowledge comes together to put together formulas that are smooth, easy, don't cause problems, and elicit the best of health out of the body. Now, just a few hallmarks of what Systemic brings to the marketplace. They have undoubtedly the finest formulas that address pathogens. I'm talking about bacteria, virus, fungus, spirochetes, mycoplasm, and so forth. That their formula gold set an industry standard for something that we might call an herbal antibiotic. And their VIVI formula called Virox is undoubtedly the world's finest antiviral formula. It uses a special processing and rendering of the Lomatium dissectum, herb, a big root that has this precious oil in it that Dr. Krebs of Nobel Prize fame was credited for saving 40,000 lives back in 1918 at the great worldwide influenza epidemic with this Lomatium dissectum. So this is the legend, this is the lore, this is the herbal intelligence coming forward from the ancient wisdom. One more, the number 4 corrector formula called FungDX is addressing fungus in the body. And it has become, certainly over its course of being used, people recognize it as the premier antifungal. So when we need to get tough with what's going on in our patients, they're not well, they're suffering, Systemic gives us formulas that literally make a difference in a short amount of time. Another great forte along this subject is their antiparasitic formulas. They're called VRM 1, 2, 3, and 4, as Doc Wheelwright studied parasites globally for many years and was considered a world expert in the natural treatment of parasites. And so Systemic has 4 formulas that can hone in on things like large parasites in the GI tract, microscopics that move through the blood, and those types of parasites that roam through the body and so forth. So just a little bit of information on that. You're going to find that if you're interested in helping people in that area, you've got the best tools available. Now let's roll our clock up to now, the 21st century. Dr. Shane Morris is the chief formulator at Systemic. Dr. Morris, although his last name is a little different, he's the grandson of Doc Wheelwright. And it's so wonderful to see that legacy of the great eclectic healer of the 20th century come forward into a doctor who's an herbalomic expert, a cellular biologist, and a biochemist. And Dr. Morris brings the high level of training and understanding of how herbs interact with the intracellular processes. So we know today the whole game has changed in nutrition. What we did back in 20 years ago is not working as well now. We have new challenges. The challenges are inside the cells. The challenges are the damage, the inflammation, the free radicals, the corrections the epigenome is making with the human genome to express diseases more often than they express health. Understanding this, Dr. Morris is bringing out cellular healing formulas that allow us to tackle the dread issues that our patients bring us from the inside the cells. And we know, as herbalists and nutritionists, that nutrition does not matter unless it's accepted into the cell for the body to use. So with Systemic formulas, it all comes together: the research, the quality, the information for you, the training, and most importantly, the results that we get in the clinical practice. I look forward to welcoming you to becoming a fellow account of Systemic formulas and a clinician that's really practicing this new dimension in herbal healing. Thank you very much.